What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of The Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And before I start these, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only, and to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to make your own decisions, to have your answers. And I believe in your ability to do so and to be your own person, as you're showing me every day. And before I start, I have an audio version of the podcast anywhere you can find audio podcasts, and a video version of the podcast on YouTube. They're both named The Spiritual Word. I'm your host, Jackie. I upload Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time every single week except for the last week of every month, which is supposed to be my break week, which last month I messed that up because I was just like going, and didn't realize that the last week was upon me. And yeah, I basically uploaded during a week I wasn't supposed to. So I took last week as a break instead of having it be the last week of the month. But anyways, if you're new, welcome. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. If you're into spirituality, psychology, self-help, science, philosophy, self-help, spirituality, I don't know which ones I repeated, but I repeated one of those. But those are my main topics. Those are like the main things that I go to. And if those are things that you're interested in, then I recommend subbing or following whatever platform you're finding me on. And yeah, so if you're a returning baby, you already know what we're doing. And if you're new, I'm reading Start Where You Are by Pema Chodron, which is a Buddhist author and Buddhist practitioner. And we're on chapter 10. We're going to do 2 chapters. I'm going to start doing 2 chapters because this book is pretty tiny. And I feel like we can get through 2 chapters within one episode, even if they have to be like an hour. And I'm sorry if they're extremely long, but I'm just trying to get through this book so we can move on to either a different book, depending on what you guys want, but also because I want to just talk as I normally do on these. So I'm trying to get through this book just for consistency's sake, because I feel like if I were to just stop reading this, people would be looking for where's chapter 10, where's chapter 11, where's 12, where's 13, like I don't want to just stop in the middle of the book because I like to complete things. So, with that being said, let's get into chapter 10 and 11, and then we'll read 12 and 13 tomorrow. And before I get into this, I'm just going to let you guys know how many chapters there are. There are 22 chapters, and we're reading 10 and 11, which means we're going to be halfway through. But because I'm going to be doing 2, it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll be like 6 more episodes of this. And I might, I don't know, depending on how I feel, I might skip a couple of chapters or skip a couple of pages in certain chapters if I feel like they're not very helpful. And or it is what it is, I might just read 3 chapters in one sitting because I'm trying to get through this book already. And I might read chapter 12 because it's only 4 pages. So I think we will do 10, 11, and 12 in this one episode. Sorry if this is going to be like an hour long, but it is what it is. And anyways, so if you're new, thanks for being here. If you're returning, you know that I call you guys my babies. And the reason I call you guys my babies is because I find it to be a very endearing thing. So let's get right into this. Chapter 10, Cutting the Solidity of Thoughts. Once I had an interview with a student who began saying, "This is pretty depressing, isn't it? There's something sort of grim and discouraging about what we're doing here. Where's the joy, where's the cheerfulness in all of this?" We talked for a while, and at the end of the interview, she had said on her own insight, "I guess joy comes from getting real." That struck me. Whether it's connecting with a genuine heart of sadness and all the messy areas in our lives, or connecting with the vision and expansion and openness, what is real is included in all well-being. It's all in joy. It's all included in joy. Joy is not about pleasure as opposed to pain, or cheerfulness opposed to sadness. Joy includes everything. The slogan, there's a slogan that says, "Don't wallow in self-pity." And that's a good one to remember if you find the Toglen practices have you crying a lot. This whole approach could evolve into self-pity easily. And self-pity takes a lot of maintenance. If you have to talk to yourself quite a bit to keep it up. The slogan is saying to get to know what self-pity feels like underneath the storyline. That's what's training. And that's how the training develops a genuine, open-hearted, intelligent relationship with a whole variety of the human experience. We're so funny. The people who are crying a lot, think they shouldn't be, and the people who aren't crying think that they should be. One man said to me, since he is not feeling anything, when he does the Toglen practice, maybe he should leave. He felt there wasn't enough. He felt that it wasn't getting the point. That he wasn't getting the point. He felt he wasn't feeling the mushy or the warmth. He wasn't feeling mushy or warm. He just kind of felt numb. He had to encourage himself. I had to encourage him that the genuine experience of numbness is a genuine experience. It is to be human. It is all the raw material for waking up. You can use that numbness, mushiness, self-pity even. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can go deeper under the storyline. That's where the connection with all that is to be human. That's where the joy and the well-being comes from the sense of being real and seeing realness in others. The slogan says that when the world is filled with evil, or when the world is filled with the things that you just don't want, that it can all be transformed into the path of awakening. Then there's various suggestions, such as drive all blame into oneself, be grateful to everyone. A third suggestion that you can transform seemingly obstacles into an awakening by flashing the non-solidity of things on Shunyata, or absolute bodhicitta. This slogan is a quite difficult one. On the subject of Sunyata, saying the confusion of the four kayas is unsurpassable. Sanayata protection. The part that seems confusing is pretty accessible for all of us, but the rest of the slogan requires discussion. The word kaya means body. The four kayas are the dharmakayas. Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, Sabhayakaya. You could say that the four kayas in a way are describing how emptiness manifests and how we could experience it. The first there's a sense of basic space in Dharmakaya, Dharma body. In the morning, we chant the essence of the thought is the Dharmakaya. Nothing, whatever, but everything arises from it. Dharmakaya is the basic space from which everything arises. And everything arises is essentially spacious, not fixed or clunky. Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, points to the experience that the space is not really empty as we know it. There's an energy, a color, and a movement. It's vibrant, like a rainbow or a bubble, or the reflection of your face on the mirror. It's vivid, yet not substantial at the same time. Sambhogakaya refers to this energetic quality, the fact that emptiness is fluid and vivid. Sound is often an image for Sambhogakaya. You can't really see it or capture it, but it has vibration, energy, and movement. Nirmanakaya is the third of the fourth kayas, referring to the experience that emptiness manifests in form. Nirmanakaya is the meaning of communication with others. The heart. Sutra says the form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Nirmanakaya refers to the fact that phenomenon actually manifests. Trees, grass, buildings, traffic, each of us, the whole world actually manifests. That's the only way we get to experience emptiness. Appearance / emptiness, sound / emptiness. They're simultaneous. Whatever appears unreal. Whatever appears is vividly unreal in emptiness. Emptiness isn't really empty in the way that we might think of it. It is a vibrant and it manifests, yet usually all we see is the manifestation. We solidify it, and we solidify ourselves. We solidify what we see. The whole thing becomes like a war or a seduction. We are totally caught up in the drama. The fourth kaya is Svabai Svabhavikaya. Means the previous three arise at once. They're not really three separate things. Space, energy, and the appearance arise together. The slogan says, seeing confusion, the sense of obstacles, the things that we don't want to see, the sense of interruptions. The fourth kaya is the unsurpassable Shunyata protection. Shunyata protection is protection because it cuts through the solidity of our thoughts, which are how we make everything, including ourselves, concrete and separate. It cuts through the way that we're out here and everything is out there. We know from some of the other slogans that we've discussed. When confusion arises, it's part of the path. When confusion arises, it is juicy and it is rich. The sense of obstacles is very rich and can teach us. In these practices, it is necessary. In these practices, it's the necessary ingredient for being able to do the Toglen or to work on the Lojong at all. But this slogan is saying that when confusion arises, not only do you practice the Toglen and connect with the heart, but also you can flash on the non-solidity of phenomenon at the same time. In other words, you can just drop it. When we all know simultaneously what it is to feel just like that. What it is to feel like just to drop it. Out of the blue, you just drop it. For instance, on a meditation retreat, there are noodles for breakfast. Maybe in the beginning it seems funny, but halfway through breakfast you find yourself instead being mindful of the food and the chopsticks in your hand and the other people and the good instructions you've received, talking to yourself about what a good breakfast would be. What a good breakfast would be. How you'd like to have a good breakfast, like your mother used to make in Brooklyn. It might be a matzo ball of soup, tortillas, beans, or ham and eggs, but you want a good breakfast, burned bacon like mother used to make. You resent these noodles. Then, not through any particular effort, you just drop it. To your surprise, there's a big world there. You see all these little lights glimmering in your empty lacquered bowl. You notice the sadness on someone's face. You realize the man across you is also thinking about breakfast because he has a resentful look on his face, which makes you laugh because you were there just 1 second ago. The world opens up and suddenly there's for what's happening. Suddenly, we're there for what's happening. The solidity of our thoughts becomes transparent, and we can actually connect with the space, Shanyata, in ourselves. We have the ability to drop the storyline, and to ruse ourselves. In an everyday experience of Shanyata, but it is also a very advanced practice if you can do it when you don't happen to feel like it. If everything is solid and intense, we're wallowing in self-pity or something else. If someone says to you at that point, just drop it. Even in the sweetest, kindest, most gentle voice, you want to punch the person in the nose. You just want to keep wallowing in the resentment and the self-pity. The whole point in this practice of Lojong is that you start where you are. The slogan, abandon any hope for fruition. Also, encouragement to just be where you are. With all the numbness or resentment or whatever, just start where you are. Then the results of doing the practice, to your surprise, you will see that this week you can drop it more easily than last week. Or that this year you can drop it more easily than last year. As time goes on, you find that you can spontaneously drop it more and more. Same goes for compassion. We have compassion when we remember that certain things we can, without any effort at all, open our hearts. Then we're told to have compassion for our enemies, for the ones of our lives, for the people that we really hate. The that's advanced practice. But as a result of doing the Lojong practice and giving up all hope of fruition, and just relating with who we are now, and feeling what we're feeling now, we can find the circle of our compassion begin to widen, and we're able to feel compassion in increasingly difficult situations. Compassion comes to us beginning. Hold on. Compassion starts becoming. Hold on. Compassion starts coming to us because we have the aspiration to do the practice and to get more in touch with our own pain and our own joy. In other words, we are willing to get real. We realize that we can't fake it or we can't force it, and we can't force it, but we know that we have what it takes to work with it, with how we are right now. So we start that way, and both the ability to drop it and cheer up and the ability to open our hearts begins to grow at their own accord. Seeing confusion of the four kayas is unsurpassable yet shanyata protection. It is really encouragement not to make such a big deal of things. We can at least entertain the thought that we can drop it and remember that it feels what it feels like when we drop it and how our worlds open up and discover the big world outside our little ego bound cocoon. This particular slogan means as meditation instructions. It's said that only on the cushion you can really get into this one. In general, however, I'd like to encourage you to use this whole Lojong and Toglen approach practice even when you finish formal meditation periods. A formal meditation period. Formal meditation period. That's where it's most powerful, that's where it's most real, that's where it's most heartfelt. As you're going about your day and you're seeing things that touch your heart or feeling things that scare you or make you feel uptight or resentful, you can begin to think of doing the exchange, breathing in and breathing out on the spot. This is necessary and helpful. After meditation, this practice feels quite real, sometimes a lot more real than meditation in the meditation room. The slogan of the four kayas points out that in the Samantha Vajrayana practice, you can begin to see the non-substantial nature of things. It's addressed to the part of the practice we say thinking. And you're completely caught up. You've gone to New York City in your mind, you're having breakfast, you're reliving resentments and joys, and then without effort, you wake up. That's what happens. You, as you know, but it is not like making yourself come back. It's suddenly you notice and wake up, and then you told yourself thinking. As, hold on, that label thinking in the beginning of acknowledging the whole drama doesn't have any substance. That it arises out of nowhere. But it is extremely vivid even though the storyline goes away. There is an energy and a movement. It definitely seems to manifest in terms of tables and chairs and people and animals, and it seems so tangible. But in the moment we say thinking, you're acknowledging that the whole drama is just a thought in your mind, and recognizing that the shunyata or emptiness maybe each of us had some moments of how liberating it can be. When the thought arises, it may occur to you to wonder where they come from. Where do they come from? It seems as though they come from nowhere. You're just faithfully following your breath, and then wham, you're in Hawaii surfing. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Big drama happening. Big drama. It is 9:30 in the morning. Oh wow. This is extremely heavy. A car horn honks. And suddenly, you're not in the drama anymore. You're in another drama. I was instructed to meditate on thoughts. I investigated the nature of thought for a whole 2 months. I can tell you firsthand that you can never find a thought. There are nothing there, no there's nothing there of substance. But with our minds we can make the mistake of making it an extremely big deal. Another slogan, all activities should be done in one hold on. All activities should be done with one intention. Breathing in, breathing out, feeling resentful, feeling happy, being able to drop it, may not being able to drop it, eating our food, brushing our teeth, walking, sitting, whatever we're doing could be done with one intention, which is what we want to wake up. We want to ripen our compassion, and we want to ripen our ability to let go. Everything in our lives can wake us up or put us to sleep. And basically it's up to us to let it wake us up. That was chapter 10. Now let's do chapter 11. Overcoming resistance. I just be making up words. Come here. Somebody wants to say hi. I don't know if you heard that. The little squeak, the little squeal. This is Gracie, for everybody who doesn't know her. Anyways, Gracie, we're reading chapter 11, so read with me. The slogan of the day is the 4 practices are the best of methods. This slogan is about the 4 things that help us practice both relative and absolute bodhicitta. 1. Accumulating merit. 2. Purifying our negative thoughts. Purifying our negative actions is actually called confessing our negative actions. Feeding the ghost. Number 3. And 4. Offering to the protectors, which is sometimes translated as asking the protectors to help you in each of your practice. And each of these 4 practices jumps right into the guts of our unwanted feelings, emotions, and situations. Earlier, we have talked about the best kind of protection is to see the emptiness. Hi, Mama! And sorry, I'm like so distracted by her. She is such a good baby. Mama, please. Just sit down. Do you want to sit down or you want to leave? Would you like to go? Or are you staying? Or neither? She's a puppy. I love my puppy. Oh my goodness. Good night, Mama. Let's go Tippies. Go Mimi's right here. Good night. I hope that you guys can hear her purring because it's so cute. Anyways, let's read this together, okay? Where was I? Which is sometimes translated as asking the protectors to help you in your practice. Each of these 4 practices jumps right into the guts of unwanted feelings, emotions, and situations. Earlier, we talked about how the best kind of protection is to see the empty, the dreamlike quality of the confusion. Whereas seeing the confusion in the 4 kayas is something we do on the level of absolute bodhicitta. The 4 practices are about doing something, are actually hold on, are about actual things that you can do in a relative level in terms of ritual and ceremony. However, you talk about it, the crux of the matter is to overcome resistance. These 4 practices are 4 methods in that Milarepa might have used to try and get the demons out of his cave. And the punchline of the story is that when the resistance was gone, so were the demons. Resistance is an unwanted circumstance that has power to keep those circumstances alive, as well as for a very long time. Accumulating merit. The first of the 4 practice is to accumulate merit. The way to accumulate merit is to be willing to give. Willing to give, willing to open, willing to not hold back. It's described as letting go of holding on to yourself and letting your stronghold of the ego go. Instead of collecting the things for yourself, you open and give them away. As a result of opening yourself, you begin to experience the world as more friendly. This is merit. You find it easier to practice the Dharma. You have fewer kleshas. And circumstances seem to be more hospitable. You might think the way of entering the circumstances in which you could practice the Dharma is used the same old way, the same old habitual style, but the idea behind accumulating is a kind of meretricious situations to open and give. It is to open and give, and not to hold back. Instead of encasing yourself in a cocoon, instead of shielding your heart, you can be open. Let the whole thing dissolve. That is how merit is accumulated. In Buddhist societies, such as in Burma, Tibetan, and China, accumulation of merit is interpreted as performing all kinds of good works, such as making donations to build monasteries and or retreat centers. It's wonderful to fundraise in Hong Kong and Taiwan because people feel that is meritorious to give money to build a retreat center or a monastery. If you give these worthy cases, and if it is a gesture of real generosity, if you are giving without wishing for anything particular in return, then it works. When we take the bodhisattva vow, we take a gift. The moment we give the gift, the moment we receive one of the marks and taking the vow, the instruction is to give something that you find hard to let go, something that hurts a little. If you give money, you should be just a little, it should be just a little bit more than you would really want to give. In these traditional ways of accumulating merit, the inner meaning is that of opening completely to the situation and some kind of daring. There is an incarnation that goes along with this practice, of which is said to be the ultimate expression of gaining merit because it has to do with letting go of hope and fear. If it's better for me to be sick, so be it. If it's better for me to recover, so be it. If it's better for me to die, so be it. Another way of saying this, grant your blessings. that if I'm meant to be sick, let me be sick. Grant your blessings that if I'm meant to recover, let me recover. It is not that you're asking the higher power to grant you the blessing, but basically saying, let it happen, let it happen, let it happen. Surrendering, letting go of possessiveness and complete non-attachment are symptoms of accumulating merit. The idea is that is to open up rather than shut down. Confess evil actions. The second of the 4 practices is to confess evil action or to lay down the neurotic action. In Buddhist monasteries, this is done in a done ceremonially on a day of the full moons. Confess your neurotic action. Number 1, regretting what you've done. 2, refraining from doing it again. 3, performing some kind of remedial activities such as Vajrasat Vajrasattva mantra. Taking refuge in the 3 jewels, or the Toglen, and expressing your complete willingness to continue this 4th hold process in the future, to not act out neurotically. So, the 4th fold formula of laying down your neurosis consists of regretting, reframing, remedial action, and to resolve not do it again. Bad circumstances may have arisen, but when we know that we can transform them, the advice is that here are the best methods to confess the whole thing. First, you don't confess to anybody. It is a personal matter. You yourself look at what you do and go through the fourth fold process with it. Second, no one gives you forgiveness. You are not confessing a sin. This is not as if you've sinned as you were taught in a Judeo-Christian culture, which when we grew up, what is meant by neurosis is that in limitless, timeless space, which we could connect anytime, we continually have tunnel vision and lock ourselves in a room, put bolts on the door. When there is so much space, why do we keep putting on dark glasses, putting in earplugs, covering ourselves with armor? Confessing our neurotic action is the 4th fold process by which we learn to see honestly what we do and develop a yearning, and taking off those dark glasses, taking out those earplugs, and taking off the armor. Letting go of the world fully, and yet again the method of letting go. For letting go and holding back, another method of opening rather than closing. Number 1, regret. So first, because mindfulness is seeing what you do as a result of your practice, it gets harder and harder to hide it from yourself. Well, that turns out to be extremely good news. It leads to being able to see the neurosis as neurosis and not condemnation of yourself, but by something that benefits you. Regret implies that you're tired of armoring yourself, tired of eating the poison, yelling at someone for each time you feel threatened, tired of talking to yourself for hours each time you don't like the way that someone else is doing something. Tired of this constant complaining to yourself. Nobody else gets to give you a hard time. Nobody else gets to tell you. Through keeping your eyes open, you'll get tired of your neurosis. That's ideal of regret. That's the idea of regret. Once someone who had done something, he had really regretted when his teacher explained the whole thing. The teacher said, it's good that you feel regret. You have to acknowledge what you do as much It's better to see what you have. It's better to see that you've harmed someone better than to protect yourself from that. But you only get 2 minutes for regret. It's a good thing to remember because otherwise you might flagellate. You might flagellate yourself. Oy vey, oy vey. Where did she go? Sorry, this is going to be a long episode, but anyways. Number 2, reframing. The second part of the confession of neurotic action is reframing. It's painful to see how, in spite of everything, you can continue your neurosis. Sometimes it has to wear itself out like an old shoe. However, reframing is very helpful as long as you don't impose to if you don't impose to an authoritarian voice on yourself. Reframing is not like a New Year's resolution, not a setup where you can plan your next biggest failure and say, I will see what I do and never do it again. And then you feel pretty bad when you do it again in a half hour. Reframing comes about spontaneously when you see how your neurosis action works. When you may say to yourself, it would feel good. It seems like it would be fun, but reframing because you already know the chain reaction of misery that it sets off. The initial bite, the initial drink, or the initial harsh words that might give someone the feeling of well-being, but it is followed by the chain reaction of misery that you've been through, not once, but 1,000, but 5,000 times. So reframing is a natural thing that comes from the fact that we have our own basic wisdom within us. It's important to remember that reframing is not harsh, like yelling at yourself or making yourself do something that you don't want to do. It's gentle. At very most, say to yourself one day at a time. Number 3, remedial action. The third part of the confession of your neurotic activity is the remedial action. Doing something about the whole thing. Doing some kind of practice to water the seed of wisdom, giving it the necessary moisture to grow, to see the neurosis as neurosis. It has a sense of regret and reframe. And then, due to the practice, helps it purify the whole situation. The practice traditionally suggested is to take refuge in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. To take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in someone who let go of holding back, just as you can do. To take refuge in the Dharma is to take refuge in all the teachings that encourage you and nurture your inherent ability to let go of holding back. And to take refuge in the Sangha is to take refuge in the community of people who share this longing to let go and to open up rather than to shield themselves. The support that we give each other as practitioners is not usually a kind of samsaric support in which we can all join the same team and complain about something else. It is more than you're on your own, completely alone, but it's helpful to know that there are 40 other people who are also going through this all by themselves, and it is supportive and encouraging. Fortunately, even though people can give you support, you do it yourself, and that's how you grow up in this process rather than becoming more dependent. Number 4, resolution. The fourth aspect of laying down all evil action and to resolve and to not repeat it again. This can be a tricky and misunderstood. If misunderstood, the point is to not be harsh with yourself. Don't let an authoritarian inner voice tell you that if you do it again, you're going to get a lump of coal at the bottom of your stocking. All 4 of the processes comes from the confidence of your basic goodness. All 4 comes out of some kind of gentleness towards yourself because there's already a sense of appreciation. You can you can regret neurosis and openness and open. You can refrain from doing something again because you don't want to harm yourself anymore. You can practice because you have basic respect for yourself. You can wish to do what nurtures your sense of confidence and warriorship rather than making yourself feel more poverty stricken and isolated. So finally, resolute so finally resolving and to not do it again comes from complete surrendering in the fourth stage. Feeding the ghost. As described in the four methods, accumulating merit is and confessing your neurotic crimes or purifying through the thought of the fourfold process. The third practice is feeding the ghost. This involves relating to the non-reasonableness. And the way you relate to making by the way you relate to this to the way you relate to it is by making a relationship with it. Traditionally, you would make a little torma, a little cake, and you would offer it. Maybe you offer it during a ceremony, maybe you put it out each morning in case you physically offer something to the ghost and the negative aspects to yourself. When Trogon Rinpoche talked about feeding the ghost, he talked about the unreasonableness and just popped out of nowhere. That just popped out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, we are unbearably sad. Out of nowhere, we're furious when we want to destroy. He said, Your fists are at your wife's eyes. What an image. Without a warning. Unreasonable just comes up out of nowhere. Bam, there it is. Frequently comes up first thing in the morning, and you see the day as that angry, pissed off feeling, with the same sadness, with the same passion, and suddenly unreasonable that comes out of nowhere is called dawn. It wakes you up. You should regard this as best rather than trying to get rid of the problem. So on the outer level, you can give the dawn the cake. On the inner level, you can see that the dawn has arisen. That it has this force but refrains from blackening anybody's eye, from acting out, from reframing, from repressing it. You can take the middle way yet again, letting yourself be there with the full force of the dawn, being there with the power to purify you. This description is 100% mindfulness. You just accumulated merit by going beyond hope and fear and saying, let it be. The same with the dawn. There's some sense of let it be. There is an incarnation that says, not only do I want you to go away, you can come back anytime you'd like. Not only do you want to go away, but you can come back anytime you'd like. Here and here's some cake. Personally, when I read that, I got sort of scared. The commentary said that if you invite them back because they show you when you have lost your mindfulness, you invite them back when you remain in this when they remain, you have spaced out. Dawns wake you up. As long as you're mindful, no dawn can arise. But like cold germs, viruses, where there's a gap, boom, in they come. The dawn will refuse your invitation to come back as long as you're awake and open. But the moment that you start to close off, it will accept the invitation with the pleasure and the cake your anytime. That's called feeding the ghost. Just for a little bit of clarification, because I did not read that as well as I could. I really like this part because it kind of like invokes something within myself that I see. Like, I have a very impatient Dawn. You know, I have a very impatient Ghost per se. I have moments when I'm playing like stuff like my video games where I'm just like, oh, I'm ready to like bite somebody's head off. But in that moment, that's when you practice the mindfulness of feeding that ghost and saying, yeah, you're here because I need you to show me what I'm not being aware of. And in this moment in time, like yesterday, I was playing my video games, and in this moment, I basically did what this is saying. And I literally sat there and I was like, oh, I can just like drop this because it's not necessarily real. I'm just here to enjoy this experience. And enjoying this experience means that sometimes I'm going to have these feelings arise. And these feelings that arise are just here to show me something. And it's not here to show me that I need to be more hard on myself. It's not here to show me that I need to be softer on myself. It's not here to show me anything other than what it's literally showing me in that very, very moment. And that I don't need to have that impatience, or I don't need to be that frustrated with something that really doesn't have that much significance, even though it does have a significance in my waking experience. You know what I mean? Anyways, I thought I'd just clarify that really quick. So the last one, offering the protectors. The fourth practice is to offer the protectors, or to ask the protectors to help you with your practice. The protectors protect the principle of enlightenment. They protect the inherent wisdom, the inherent compassion in Thangakas Tibetan scroll painting. They appear as a wrathful figure with flames coming out of them, with big teeth, claws, necklaces of skulls. The protectors are protecting against unkindness, against lapses of wisdom, against harshness and petty mindfulness, against fundamental insanity of any kind. The reason that they appear so wrathful is that they're not going to buy that stuff. Hold on, wait, where was I? The reason that they appear so wrathful is that they're not going to buy stuff. Who is not going to buy that stuff? In truth, it is your wisdom. Under the slogan comes the teachings and learning to appreciate the giants. No. Again, this is the basic on respect for yourself. Loving kindness for yourself. Which is to say that confidence in your basic goodness, when you start to close off and shut down and an interruption occurs, which is basically the giant. No. This is not an authoritarian in the sense that somebody is out to punish you. It's a sense of encouragement to not spin off into neurotic stuff. When the anchor of any kind of any other klesha arises, its basic energy and power, clean, sharp, and can cut through any neurosis. But actually, we don't stop that. We usually spin off into what is called a negativity. A negativity, which is pettiness, resentment, aggression, righteous indignation. Then this protector aspect of the mind protects our basic wisdom, rears its flame-covered head, and says no. Learning to appreciate the giant no comes out of compassion for yourself. Is very similar to regret and reframing and taking refuge in the three jewels. It is resolving and not doing it again. Let's say that you're all upset and yelling at someone, and they're yelling back, and there's a big fight going on, and you stomp out the door and slam it on your finger. That's the essence of the protector's principle. It wakes you up. The outer practice is to offer the protectors the wisdom principle. Traditionally, you offer cake. The inner level, you're inviting the principles to be alive and in your well-being. You're willing to practice in order to nurture your ability to know when you're awake and when you're falling asleep, and to bring yourself back into wakefulness of the present moment. In the Lojong practice, the approach that the best way To use unwanted circumstances to the path of enlightenment is not to resist, but to lean into them, to befriend the emotions or developing compassion for those embarrassing aspects of yourself. The one that we think of as sinful or bad, and raw material, the juicy stuff that we can work with to awaken ourselves. The 4 practices are the best methods to overcome resistance. The best methods for transforming bad circumstances into the way of enlightenment. Number 12, empty boat. I had an interview with someone who said she couldn't meditate. It was impossible because she had real life problems. In meditation, we're trying to bring home that very supportive message that real life problems are the materials of waking and not the reason to stop trying. This is news that you can use. Today's slogan is, whatever you're meeting unexpectedly, join with meditation. Whatever you meet unexpectedly, join with meditation. There's a very interesting suggestion. These slogans are pointing out that we can be awakened with bodhicitta through everything, and nothing is an interruption. The slogan points out how interruptions themselves awaken us, how interruptions themselves surprise unexpected events, bolting out of the blue can awaken us to experience an absolute and relative bodhicitta, to the open and spacious quality of our minds, to the warmth of our hearts. This slogan is about surprises as a gift. These surprises can be pleasant or unpleasant. The main point is that we can stop our minds. We're walking along and a snowball hits you on the side of the head, and it stops your mind. The slogan rests in the nature of alaya, the essence. It goes along with this. Usually, it is considered the slogan when you're sitting on the cushion and meditating. You can rest your mind in a natural, unbiased state. But the truth is that when the rug is pulled out at the same time without any effort on our part, our minds are itself resting in the nature of Allah. Hold on. When the rug is pulled out, that thing happens without any effort in our part. Our minds itself is resting in the nature of Allah. I was being driven in a car one day when the horn loudly honked from behind. A car comes from the window of the driver's face is purple and he's shaking his fist at me. My window rolled down and he yells, "Get a job." And that one still stopped my mind. The instructions that when someone stops your mind, catch that moment of gap and that moment of big space, that moment of bewilderment, that moment of total astonishment, and let yourself rest in it a little bit longer than you would ordinarily might. Interestingly enough, this is the instruction of how to die. The moment of death is apparent and a major surprise. Perhaps you've heard the word samadhi, meditative absorption, that we can remain in samadhi at the moment we die. What that means is that we can rest our minds in the nature of alaya, and we can stay open and connect with the fresh, unbiased qualities of our mind, which is given to us at the moment of death, but is also given to us throughout every day of our lives. This gift is given to us by the unexpected circumstances referred to in the slogan. After the gap, we begin to talk to ourselves again. That horrible person wasn't that wonderful that he allowed me to rest in my mind, or wasn't that wonderful that he allowed me to rest in the mind of my nature, of the rest my mind in the nature of alaya. You can catch yourself and start to do the Toglen practice. If you veer off into anger or resentment, you could just, and any of the more unwanted negative feelings, getting really upset and so forth, you can remember that the Toglen and Lojong logic. Breathe in, get in touch with your feelings. Let the storyline go away, get in touch. If you start talking to yourself again about the wonderful thing that just happened, you could remember and send it out in sense of delight. Send out the sense of delight. Usually we're so caught up in ourselves, we're hanging on to ourselves so tightly. It makes the Mack truck knocking us down to wake us up and stomp our minds. Sorry, I had to pause there really quick. But really begin to practice and you could blow wind with the curtains. The surprise can be something very gentle, just a shift in attention, something that catches our eyes, our attention shifts, and you can rest in the mind, the nature of a lie. When you start talking to yourself again, you can practice the Toglin. Surprises come in pleasant and unpleasant forms. It really doesn't matter how. The point is that it comes out of nowhere, it comes out of the blue. You're walking down the street caught in tunnel vision, talking to yourself, noticing anything. And even the croak of the raven can wake you up out of your daydream. It's often very thick, very resentful. Something just pops up, a car backfires, and for a moment you look up at the sky, and people's faces and traffic is going by, and the trees, whatever happens there, suddenly you realize how big the world is in your tunnel vision, outside of your tunnel vision. And you had an interesting experience with something surprising. Like on a retreat, it is very strong sense of shunyata, the complete emptiness of things, and had just finished the event of practicing. You had been practicing all day, and you might think, I would be in a calm, sanely mind. But as I come out of the room, I start walking down the hall. I saw something serving in the area. Someone had left dirty dishes. I started to get really angry. Now in the retreat, which we put our names on all of our dishes. Everyone has a plate, a bowl, a mug, a knife, a fork, a spoon, and they all have our name on it. So I was walking down and I was trying to see whose names were on the dishes, and I was pretty sure whose names were on them because there was only one woman in the group of 8 who would leave such a mess, and she was leaving them around for other people to clean. Who does she think she is? Who does she think was going to wash her dishes? Her mother? Did she think that we were all her slaves? And I was thinking, I've known her for a long time and thinking she's a senior practitioner, but actually she might as well have never meditated the way that's so inconsiderate of everybody else on the planet. And when I got to the sink and the plate was Pema. The cup was Pema. The name was Pema. Pema. It was mine. Needless to say, I cut my trip considerably, and it stopped in my mind. There's a Zen story which a man enjoying himself in the river of dusk. At dusk, he sees another boat coming towards him. At first, he seems so nice. Everyone else is enjoying the river on a nice summer evening, but then he realizes the boat is coming towards him faster and faster. He begins to get upset and yells, "Hey, hey, watch out. Pete, for Pete's sake, turn aside." But the boat just comes faster and faster towards him, and he stands on the boat screaming, shaking his fist. The boat smashes right into him, and he sees an empty boat. It's a classic story for our whole lives. There's an empty boat out there, and there's always screaming and shaking our fist at. Instead, we can stop our mind, even if only stopping our mind for 1 second, for 1.1 second. We can rest in that little gap, and then when the storyline starts, we can do the Toglin practice and exchange ourselves for others in the way that everything we meet has the potential to cultivate compassion, reconnection, spaciousness, and being open with our minds. Okay, that was chapter 12. We're gonna do 13 and 14 tomorrow. I'm gonna see here. This was extremely long, so I'm gonna just end it. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. I hope that this was helpful in any way, shape, or form, or that it was entertaining in any way, shape, and form. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.